Hello and welcome to a new video. Today I'm just going to be recommending you some historical romances that might help you get into the genre. For a lot of people it's a genre that's kind of scary to get into because they're kind of put off by a lot of the covers that are common historical romance. We've got shirtless men, we've got like the couple like embracing dramatically on the cover, like oil painting style, and a lot of people see that and are like immediately put off by it, which I get. It's weird to begin with. I love those covers now, but I understand the like being apprehensive in the beginning. So I picked out some books that I really love in the historical romance genre and helped me get into reading them, and I love historical romance now, so I thought I would share a couple beginner recommendations, if you will. The first recommendation I have, I don't actually have this book anymore, but I have another one by her. This is The Highland Earl by Amy Cherokee. I read a different book in this series, the Highland, I don't actually remember the title. If I remember it, I'll write it on the screen. But this was the very first historical romance that I read. This is a Highlander novel, so we've got the hero is a big Scottish Highlander in charge of his clan, and then the female character, I believe, was part of a rival clan. I read this like 3 or 4 years ago now, so I am blurry on the plot, but the point is Amy Cherokee is a really phenomenal writer. She really wrote the characters in a believable way that even though they were from like opposite sides, that they had common ground and were able to like really find connection with each other, and I just really enjoyed her writing. She is a bit of a steamy writer, at least from what I remember, so if that's something you're not comfortable with, I don't really have a lot of historical romances that don't have like steamy scenes in them, but just keep that in mind as you dive into the historical romance world. But if you like Outlander, like if you've watched the show and you like it, or even if you've read the books, or anything like Scottish, a Highlander novel is a really fun place to start. You do kind of have to adapt to figuring out the politics, and I honestly don't know most of it, but there is like a political aspect in a lot of Highlander novels, but I love the characters and love the stories that they can tell. Next, the next historical romance book I read after this, it was months and months later, but The Rogue of Fifth Avenue by Joanna Shupe. Honestly, any book by Joanna Shupe I think is a perfect place to jump into the historical romance genre, because she is such an approachable writer, and I think a lot of her books take place in Gilded Age New York, so late 1800s, early 1900s, and I think that time and place setting makes a big difference. It's easier to read than a Regency novel, in my opinion. And I just love her characters so much. They're so cute. I have so much fun with her books. This is a book series of 3, and she's got a couple others that are set in Regency New York, Gilded Age New York, and then she does have some Regency novels. I prefer the New York ones, but I have so much fun with her writing. You just fall into this story and you just have to keep reading. They're so impossible to put down. This one follows a trio of sisters as they each find their love, and these heroines, because we're on the cusp of like women starting to demand more independence, you've got some really fiery heroines, and I love it. I love them. I haven't read a Joanna Shupe in a hot minute, and I probably should, because she is my favorite historical romance author. I love her. Next, another one I think is a really approachable writer is Eva Leigh. I should look up how to say her name. This is a pen name anyway, but at least I think it is. My Fake Rake. I read this as a book club with Crystal Bookish Life here on BookTube. She did it, I think like a year or so ago now, maybe more. And I had so much fun with this book. It is adorable. First of all, this is one of my favorite covers. I just love the colors. But I just really enjoy the concept of like a friends to lovers romance, especially in historical, because you don't have a lot of female-male friendships just because of the times, and I loved that their dynamic slowly changed, and there was a lot of cool science aspects. They are both quite big nerds, so I really enjoyed that. I think she writes in a really approachable way as well, because she always creates a very relatable character to read from. So yeah, this is 18 something, they're in England, but she's still having a lot of the same problems that someone reading it might be having, like being nervous around someone and like being like having social anxiety and just being sort of an awkward person in general. So I think that's what makes this one in particular, all of her books I'm sure are really good, but this one in particular, that just connecting with the main character over similar issues, even if she's in the past and you're in the present. So I really, really love this book, and I have a few other of her books on my shelves that I haven't read yet, but I will hopefully soon because I love her. Next, if Regency New York is not your thing, or I keep mixing that up, if Regency England is not your thing, but you're also not really sold on Gilded New York, if you want something like a different, I didn't think I would love it so much, but Westerns, I love them. This, I've read mostly just Linda Lyle Miller. I've read a couple others, but this is A Wanted Man. I think this is my favorite one, but I also really like the one that comes after this that I can't think of the name of. But Linda Lyle Miller writes a lot of historical romances that take place in the Old West. It doesn't have the title of the next one here, but I love these. So they take place mostly in Arizona in the 1800s, very Old West. Their society out there is just starting to really develop, and it is just so much fun to have like these, instead of having like the very posh put together Englishman, you've got an Old West cowboy, and I love it. I love it. They are so much fun to read. You don't have all of the constraints of like a proper society, but there's obviously still a lot of different rules for their society compared to like the present. So I just have so much fun. I don't get to read books that take place in Arizona very often, so I enjoy that aspect. And I just love her writing. She creates like the toughest but the softest heroes at the same time, and they're very much like, they're tough guys, but they'll do anything for their woman. Like, it's so good. Not enough people read Linda Lyle Miller, and she's a very prolific author. She has so many books. They're not all historical romance. She has a lot of like contemporaries, but if you haven't tried a Western, please do. They're so good. I love them. Next, a classic historical romance, one of the like biggest historical romance authors in my head, is Eloisa James. I have read a couple of hers. This is the only one I own. This is Wild Child, part of the Wilds of Lindo Castle series. This is like book 10 or something in the series. I have not read all the other ones. This was a gift from my sister. But I think the thing with Eloisa James is she can be an approachable writer, because even if you're in Regency England and everything, there's so many rules and dukes and lords and blah blah blah, it's approachable in that a lot of her stories draw inspiration from like fairy tales or from Shakespeare. She herself is a Shakespeare professor at I don't remember at what school, somewhere on the East Coast. And so a lot of her novels draw inspiration from that, and I think it makes it a really approachable story. I do have another one on my shelf, I forgot. I have When Beauty Tamed the Beast, and that one draws information and like inspiration from Beauty and the Beast, obviously. And that one I really, really love. I might actually like that better than this one. But I love her writing because she's able to weave together like a classic story but make it so uniquely her own. And she's just a lot of fun. She writes really strong heroines. They are very fierce, even if they're a quieter character just in their personality. They are so strong-minded, and I just really, really enjoy her writing. She has some fun heroes. When Beauty Tamed the Beast also has got loose inspiration from the show House, if you've ever watched that, the medical drama, which is a show that I've really enjoyed in the past, so it had a lot of fun parts that made me laugh in that show. So the other thing with Eloisa James, if you do happen to like history and just fun like learning little facts and stuff about history. I'll be honest, like I like it sometimes, but it's not my favorite thing. But she does tend to reference like what's going on in history a little bit more, or like it's clear that she does her research. Like in the When Beauty Tamed the Beast, the hero is a doctor, and I really liked seeing the historical component of what a doctor would be doing in that time and what techniques and everything that they would be using. So I really like her writing. She has an incredibly long backlist that I need to get to one day, but I think she's a good place to start because to me she's just one of the classic historical romance authors. Next, another one that is one of my go-to, like if you haven't read a historical romance yet, this is like one of the authors to start with, and that is Tessa Dare. This is the Duchess Steel. I really enjoyed this one. Did I read this one yet? I haven't read this one. This is the Duchess Steel. I have not read this one yet, I don't believe, but I've read a couple other books by Tessa Dare. The way she writes, it reads like a contemporary novel that just happens to take place in historical time, which I really enjoy. Her characters are so open and vulnerable and approachable, and everything about the story is easy to understand. You don't really have to get too worried about like dukes and lords and ladies and understanding the hierarchy. She lays it out so clearly, and I think that's really important when you're starting to get into historical romance, is having a story that you can dive into without having to get too caught up in the details, and just being able to focus on the characters. I've read quite a few of hers and I really enjoy them, and I think she is probably the perfect author to start with to get into historical romance. So those are my recommendations to get into historical romance. I hope you enjoyed them. If you do read historical romance, let me know if there's any other books that you would recommend. If you haven't tried historical romance, let me know if you would try any of these. I hope I convinced someone historical romance means a lot to me, and it is probably my favorite genre now, so I hope that you go give one of these a try, or give something in the genre a try. So I hope you enjoyed. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!